want to welcome our viewers again to this special segment of God's Plan for Saving Souls. I'm Rudy Harnish. Two special guests with me again today to discuss these important issues. Stephen Dickey, thank you for joining us.
Good to be
Glad
here.
You're here. And my special friend from the Middle East, Abdul. Thank you, Abdul,
Good to be here.
for all the insight that we're sharing with both of you brothers on this important topic of the sanctuary. The sanctuary is talked about in the Quran, it's talked a lot about in the Torah, and also in the Injil. And today we're discovering the topic of the most holy place. We've been just talking about the holy place of the sanctuary, the rectangular larger section. Now we're looking at a much smaller part, but a much more important part, as we're going to find out. Before we do, we ask for God's blessing again as we prayed, as we begin this program. Our kind God in heaven, we just thank you for these privileges. We thank you for this information that you've given to your prophets long ago, the Torah and the Injil, and we thank you for what was revealed to us out of the Quran here as we're studying these lessons. And we just ask that you'd be in our midst to give us direction, and also the viewers, that you give them hope. For we ask it in the name of Isa al-Messiah, Jesus the Messiah. Amen. The sanctuary, the most holy place, also called the Holy of Holies. We find that there was also furniture in the most holy place. Exactly one item, one piece of furniture, but it was several items put together in this one piece. And one of the most important there was the Ark of the Covenant. And above the Ark was the mercy seat, and then above the mercy seat was the cloud and the pillar of fire, which we're going to discuss all these in some depth. There with the red arrow, you can see where this was. We're looking at the completely square part there, the sanctuary, the most holy place. There in color with the red arrow, again you see the cloud coming up, the Shekinah glory of that room that was only accessible once a year by the high priest, there pictured beside the sanctuary there. This is found in Exodus 26, the Torah, Exodus 26, 33 and 34. Talks about the most holy place. All this was given to Moses as they're planning to build a sanctuary system, and this was in great detail because it pointed to something much larger, didn't it? As we said, this was a sandbox version, you might say, of a much larger building that was in the heavens. And so they were Moses was patterning this earthly, movable sanctuary because God wanted to be with them. He was patterning it after something that he was shown in the mount, which was in heaven. So the most holy place is also called the Holy of Holies. And the Ark of the Covenant resided in the most holy place. The Shekinah glory of God rested upon the lid of the Ark, the mercy seat, because God wanted to be with his people. And so here he could be with his people, veiled in this cloud and in this fire, because if he was unveiled to the people of God, they would be destroyed because of our sinful natures and so on. And so here God could still be with his people, but it was veiled, it was shrouded. Here's an interesting verse I found in the Quran, because the Quran also talks about the Ark of the Covenant. And here in the English Yusuf Ali's version, it says, the Ark of the Covenant was among the relics left by the family of Moses and the family of Aaron, carried by angels, and this is a symbol for you if you indeed have faith. So the Quran goes back and points to the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
Maybe
I
you got
may as
something
well read it in Arabic,
from Arabic,
because it adds also to the same meaning. وقال لهم نبيهم إن آية ملكه أن يأتيكم التابوت فيه سكينة من ربكم وبقية مما ترك آل موسى وآل فرعون تحمله الملائكة إن في ذلك لآية لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. So it's basically saying the same thing, that it's given to their prophet, and it's a sign of God's majesty and power and authority, that this Shekinah or Sakinatullah is the place of where God settles, and it's important because it describes, again, the point that we brought from the beginning of this series, that God wanted to dwell among His people. So His Sakinatullah, or the Shekinah, where God settles and sits. So He want to sit and settle with His people and invite them to come to Him. And that's very clear in the Quran as well.
And I noticed too, in ancient Israel, when they moved, because this whole entire sanctuary structure was immovable, and so they would take it apart, and then the priests would carry the Ark of the Covenant, and it would be covered so you couldn't see it. And wherever they went, the enemy countries, if they tried to do anything, they couldn't stand up against Israel, because God's presence was with them.
That's right.
I think it's very important to remember at this point in time, because there's many false teachers in the 21st century that says the Quran has nothing to do with the Bible. It doesn't coincide or anything. And yet, what I just heard you read, and what Abdul read here from the Quran about the Shekinah, I mean, that's highly spiritual, and they're the same fit. So my concern is there's so many false teachers today within the Christian world that are talking against this book but have never read it or never considered it, that our viewers need to realize not to listen, even to us, but to go back and buy one of these. If you don't know where to get one, go to Barnes & Noble, they have them there. And I think this one here is Yusuf Ali. Yusuf Ali was translated in 1938, and then it was redone by the Saudi government in Arabia in 1985. And so this is the most familiar English translation of the Quran in the world. And you can read these very same things because within the Western world today, the Islamic people are coming over because of the persecution they're having, and they need to find people who have a concern for their welfare, that maybe they don't have enough to eat, maybe they don't have, something's broken down their car. We need Christians to be Christians to help and assist, because I have been helped with Muslims all over the world, myself personally.
Yes.
Excellent topic. We're talking about the holy place. We're talking about the Ark of the Covenant.
Sakinatullah, that's His dwelling place.
And this was revealed in this sanctuary service. The Ark of the Covenant had the mercy seat, and then the cloud and the pillar of fire. This is the Shekinah that we're talking about here. And here, there, follow the red arrow, you can see where this is. It's right there in that last room, the most holy place, where the high priest went only once a year to do the special work of the atonement at one mint. The special blood that was taken in that once a year and sprinkled before the mercy seat.
And again, the word at one.
At one mint.
That's at one with God.
Yeah.
To come to Him.
Reconciled.
Yes. And at His Sakinatullah, the root is coming from Maskan, which is a place of dwelling, or a place where somebody dwells. And in this case, is Sakinatullah, the place where His place is.
You know, that's an amazing thought. That the creator of this whole universe, you know, we have telescopes now that reach into the furthest depths of space. We see these amazing galaxies with what the creator has built, and yet he humbled himself to come, and even to Moses. I know there's one verse in the Quran and in the Torah where he speaks to Moses out of the fire, and he says, "I am Allah." To think of this creator humbling himself, coming this low to speak to mankind is just amazing. It's too much for my mind to understand.
Glory to God.
But we continue. There it is found in Exodus 26, 33, and 34. The most holy place is also called the Holy of Holies. The Ark of the Covenant resided in the most holy place. And the Shekinah glory of God rested upon the lid of the Ark, the mercy seat. It's all about mercy, isn't it? God is merciful. You know, He didn't, even though Adam and Eve sinned, even though countless people since that time have sinned, yet in mercy, He's calling us back. He's calling us back.
Yes.
There's a picture on the slide of of a light between the angels. There's two angels standing over the Ark of the Covenant there in gold. And the Shekinah glory resting upon the lid of the ark, the mercy seat. And then the high priest enters once a year. The high priest that was chosen by Allah, chosen by God. And during the time of Moses, it was his brother Aaron that was chosen to be the high priest. Once a year, he would enter into the most holy place of the Day of Atonement to sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat, the lid of the ark, to atone for his own sins, because Aaron was a man like everyone else with a sinful nature, and he himself needed atonement, and for the people's sins. So all Israel had to be in tune with what was going on that special day. Yom Kippur is what they call it now.
Yeah.
There's a picture of the Ark of the Covenant with angels' outstretched wing overshadowing the mercy seat there. All heaven, with the angels of heaven, are all interested in what's going on in this world below. And they're here to assist us. God is sending these messengers of mercy to help us in this entire work that we're doing here on this world. There's the red arrow again showing where the Ark of the Covenant was, and the picture there in the color photo there, with the high priest beside. The Ark of the Covenant was made of acacia wood. What kind of wood is that? That's a special wood that doesn't decay very quickly. And so it shows that this wood was overlaid with gold. And this Ark of the Covenant, this box, was inlaid with gold inside and out. But the inside was this certain kind of acacia wood. And it had a golden crown around the top of it, this molding set around the edge of the top of the Ark of the Covenant. The mercy seat was set on top of the ark.
I think the wood is significant. The Arcadia wood is something I don't know, but I know the wood in the holy place, those were cedar from Lebanon, covered with gold, and the people here in the upper northwest of North America, they have cedar, and cedar is a wood that's pungent with odor. It's red in color, and this is something that Allah had put in the holy place. Now you're mentioning this Arcadia wood. There has to be reasons. I don't know the reasons, but it's special wood that just wasn't what you'd get down at the Home Depot store.
Yeah.
And it was special, and it was artisans that made it, and because it was having a meaning for it.
So now we get a little bit into the measurements of the ark. The actual Ark of the Covenant is 2.5 cubits long, or 45 inches, they estimate, 45 inches long. And then 1.5 cubits wide, which is about 27 inches or 69 centimeters wide. And then the height of it was 1.5 cubits, or 69 centimeters tall. So it gives you an idea. And then it had these bars that ran through it, these golden bars. They would lift it through these bars and carry it. There's another picture of the Ark of the Covenant with the angels, the golden angels looking over the ark. Well, the stone tablets, we're looking at something now that was inside this special box, this special holy box of God, this sacred chest. We find out that some time back in our series, we found out that Moses was given something on top of Mount Sinai, and that was the tablets, wasn't it? The 10 Commandments, the laws of Allah. And he was commanded to place these tablets in this sacred chest, the Ark of the Covenant. And the stone tablets, which means the 10 Commandments, God protects. And then there was also a jar of manna put inside. When did manna fall? Do you remember that, when that took place?
It's when the children of Israel came across the Red Sea into Arabia, and their means of support was by this bread from heaven that was on the Arabian desert floor.
Right.
It would disappear when the sun came up and got warm. So a lot of meaning to that. And also they weren't supposed to pick it on Sabbath.
Right.
because there was none,
There was none.
and they were to pick it on Friday to get extra, but if they picked extra manna on any other day, it'd smell and stink.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah, he provided enough each and every day except on Friday,
right?
the day of prayers for
It was
Muslims.
double, yeah.
A double portion they could pick
Yeah.
that day that reached over into the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Interesting, this as they reached into the wilderness, their sustenance, there's more sand and more wilderness, more not much food there in the wilderness. And so God provided this manna. And the children of it, how many years, do you remember how many years he provided manna?
Well, it was the time that when they went into cross Jordan, so
Yeah.
it was at least 40 years.
It was 40 years that
Yeah.
they received manna. And so God here, Allah, commanded Moses to take a jar of this manna as a reminder how I sustained you through all those wilderness years.
Yeah.
And that reminds us, doesn't it? It tells us that God sustained us. He may not use manna right now, but he can if he wishes to, if it's needed. But now he sustains us, day by day, giving us work, giving us jobs. He finds ways, he has 1,000 ways to provide for us. And so this jar of manna means God provides. And the Ten Commandment laws we've mentioned before are a hedge of protection, aren't they? If you think about it, God's Ten Commandment laws protect us. They protect us from getting involved with things that we shouldn't be involved in, so they're a hedge of protection.
Many people have said that the law of God has been changed over the issue of the seventh-day Sabbath, but the seventh-day Sabbath in the Torah is a sign of the power of holiness working in each one of us to prepare us for heaven.
That's right.
And you have these angels over there we've seen here that, as well as in the Bible, that tell that they were symbolic of guarding that. So when man says, "Oh, the law has been changed," that's not true, because
That's right.
angels of heaven guard that law. It hasn't been changed. So the Bible that was written by all these different prophets through the years, as well as the apostles in the New Testament era, I believe that God has done a very good job of keeping
That's right.
his message pure for us.
Yes.
And I found the Sabbath, mentioning in the Ten Commandments in the Quran as well.
Oh, yes.
Very highly spoken of,
Oh, yes.
that it is not to be violated.
Oh, that's right.
The third item that was in this Ark of the Covenant was Aaron's rod. Now Aaron was the high priest chosen by God, and there was an issue that came up among the Israelites. They thought that Aaron shouldn't be leading. Remember that?
I remember this.
And so there was a squabble, a quarrel going on, and God told them, each one of you leaders who thinks you need to be leader,
Yep.
bring your rod and present it. And the next day, what happened, including Aaron had to bring his rod, and we find out that Aaron's rod was the one that budded. It actually sprouted through the night. There were leaves on it, there were flowers on it, and ripe almonds on this bud,
That's right.
on this stick, so that God made it very, very clear to Israel who he chose as high priest.
That's right. And that
Very
reminds us
interesting.
again, it's not our ways
Yes.
and our own doors
Yes.
and bab. No, it has to be done by God's way and God's words. God chose who going to build the sanctuary
That's
by
right.
name. He chose Aaron by name. He chose Moses by name.
Moses,
He chose us all by name in different capacities and different gifts and talents. And therefore, we cannot go stray from God's plan and God's ways.
It's always a challenge for us to submit to the ways of Allah.
And
isn't
that's
it?
true.
It's always a challenge.
That's true.
And so, as we humble ourselves before Him, asking Him, please show me the right way.
You know?
And then, every chapter from the Quran, a Muslim is praying, show us the right way.
That's right.
And so God will answer that prayer.
اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
Okay,
And
there
that
you
is
are.
basically God's way.
Mhm.
And the only way we can do that is by opening the Torah, the Injil, the Zabur, and connect what God is saying to Moses, the law, the Sakinatullah, the Shekinah glory, the sanctuary. All these things have to be all put together so that we can know what God's plan is. Allah's plan is for us to be with Him and to be righteous according to His way, not according to our way. Yes.
Excellent. Aaron's rod, which budded and bore fruit, showing God's power to bring life out of death.
That's right.
Those rods were dead. They were using them to herd sheep or whatever they did, or for walking. They were dead sticks. Here God went, and overnight, the power of God went into the life of this dead stick, this one stick, which was Aaron's, and it brought life to it.
Yeah.
So that's good to know that God protects, He provides, and it's through God's power that He brings life out of death. There you have the contents of the Ark of the Covenant, Aaron's rod that budded, that pot of manna, and also the tablets, the tables upon which was written by the finger of God, by the way, the Ten Commandments. Well, Jesus the Messiah fulfilled the law, and He protects all believers with His blood. And we found out that Jesus is represented, Isa al-Masih is represented in all these items in the sanctuary. And we find out in the Ark of the Covenant here, Jesus fulfilled the law. And now Jesus the Messiah, He provides us with the bread of life. That's found in Injil chapter 6 of John. And Isa al-Masih demonstrates His power over death by Himself rising from the dead. So we have all those three things
That's right.
represented there in the Ark of the Covenant. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's been just a joy to have you folks with us, both of you men today, and we just thank you for joining us, and we invite the viewer to continue watching these programs time after time, and we just pray that Allah will richly bless you as you continue your search to submit to Allah, and may you be blessed spiritually, and may you be at peace and in comfort with God. Until next time, may God bless you.